Hello and welcome back to SiegeGG Live, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm so excited to be welcoming not only David alongside me, but also Mr. Marlon Mello, aka Twister, the former coach of Furia, and before that FaZe, and before that NIP and Black Dragon. So if you guys are unfamiliar with him at this point, my only question is how? How are you feeling, Twister?
I want to say, first of all, thank you for the participation. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning for everyone. I'm feeling great. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. So, obviously, this week we're having you on, and it's a really good week to have you on because Copa Elite Six is basically come to a close. Like, effectively, I know we still have games today, W7M and FaZe, I think, and like the other side as well. But those don't really matter. What really matters is the fact that we already have the teams qualified for the Berlin Major, and we're going to be talking about those. But let's get all like the normal, simple stuff out of the way before we really let you lose on this, essentially. So, well, let's start with APAC as we always do, David. And in APAC North, nothing really happened. Really, that's it. Like Damwon
It it
and
happened. Something
You just
happened,
yeah, but like,
but
did something really happen? Like,
yeah,
something
I
doesn't really
yeah,
mean,
matter.
yeah, exactly,
exactly.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
just one thing.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
just one thing.
the Fnatic game.
Exactly.
Yes,
Because Fnatic somehow sneaked into the top four, which means they have gotten themselves
SI points.
145 SI points,
Yes,
which keep them alive in the Six Invitational 2023 race. It's very difficult to see them in the SI through global standings, but they are there. So if I don't know Max and Diesel get to change the squad for stage 3, we might see the Fnatic in an international tournament for the first time in ages.
since SI 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a cre and like and how how they got to the top four, guys? They got it by 7-0ing Talon Esports. 7-0. I That is absolutely crazy. Talon, let me just remind you, last stage were one round away from the Charlotte Major. One round. And then after that, they made two roster changes. I don't know what that was in response to. Were they like just panicking that they didn't make it to the Charlotte Major or what? But initially it looked good, and then it all fell apart. Like they lost 7-4 to Reject, 7-3 to CAG, and then the 7-0 to Fnatic, which knocked them down. It's a really shocking result. They could have been top four, as David said, but Fnatic takes that place. Yeah. And I think if you watch the desk, guys, Fabian was basically saying that it was the first time where he was like he can say that they actually attacked pretty well. And because they started off on attack, I'm pretty sure, in this matchup on Clubhouse. Yep. They went 6-0 on attack. So definitely impressive, and Fnatic's attacks are improving. And I think it's no coincidence that they started improving the moment Maga and Dizzle landed in Japan. Just trying to
Hmm.
do it online. Like Twister and I, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, just before the show started. Like it's just so hard when you're trying to impart your play style, your knowledge, and you have to go through a translator. It just doesn't kind of go through the same way.
Yeah, I mean, it's impactful because you don't have the direct contact to your players and you're not able to directly show them the way that you are feeling or show them what they need to do strictly because you have to have other people translating what you're saying. So probably something get lost. Even if they translate exactly the same that you're saying, it's not just the same thing. I
The
mean,
tone, the
I
passion, like
yeah,
everything, right?
exactly.
Like
everything can inspire the players, can bring all the team together, can
Correct.
rather the group to get in a better place. So I think you lost a little bit of this stuff when you are trying to translate. I
The
mean, it's good than not have a qualified person to do that.
mhm.
I mean, if you just choose to have a local player that can speak your language but doesn't have the knowledge, maybe it's good to have another another coach that don't know the knowledge, don't know the language, but know the knowledge. Like
Yeah.
I think it's better, but if you know the language, it's even better.
No, 100% agreed. And just to basically wrap up this point, I was talking to Joe earlier with our usual Berlin major pre-major coverage, and we got to talking basically about uh the difference between IG and where he took like one whole stage to get used to the team, and like Game Gladiators where he just instantly slots in, and he just said like, look, we are all Indonesians, and even though he speaks English perfectly, by the way, make no mistake, and even though he can communicate with the rest of the old IG players, it just wasn't the same. The camaraderie, the chemistry just wasn't there. The way you talk, the way you laugh, you know, that kind of system also doesn't get set up. So being in person and speaking the same language, Diz doesn't speak the same language, but Mag does. He's learned Japanese, so I think the combination is really elevated Fnatic, gives them hope that yes, we can really push on from this result.
I think actually that even with these results, the thing that it was most impactful for them, it was having no pressure in that games.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
once
true.
they couldn't qualify for the major, I think it was a relief for them, and they were able to play whenever the way they like it, and it was pretty easier to fight the other teams that were not on a so good shape.
Yeah, 100%. Now, that's pretty much all that was of note in APAC North. You had Damwon and
I
Sandbox
mean,
play, but both of
yeah.
them had nothing to play for.
Mhm.
Sandbox won, whatever, right? That was that. Now,
Mhm.
APAC South, though, there was something on the line. The first matchup itself in APAC South, Gaming Gladiators versus Knights, and boys and girls and NBs and whatever, wherever we fall. Go and watch that match. Like, oh my god, that was an amazing heart-stopping match. It was really, really, really insane because like Gaming Gladiator started off with like a rush, and that didn't work out. And instantly, because Gaming Gladiators needed 6, and Knights needed 7 rounds to basically
Mhm.
qualify, that essentially leveled the playing field because now each team needs 6 rounds from that point onwards. It went all the way up until round 12, where it was 5-6 in favor of Knights. If Knights win, they go to the major. If GG win, they go to the major. It was GG who won, of course. And now they're going to
Mhm.
be debuting on the international stage. And it's a really incredible story for them. It kind of feels like, I don't know how about you guys, but like, it kind of reminds me of the Damwon story, but 1 year on. They come in from tier 2, they get promoted, bad first stage, and the second stage, boom, international event.
Uh, I remember last week we were talking about this game, and I was saying that the Knights might have the upper hand because they are
Experience.
more experienced, and the talent of these players has already proved multiple times. But you mentioned the clutching potential Gaming Gladiators have,
Yes. Oh my
and that
god.
was crucial for them to win the game. We saw, I think it was Rix, who clutched with the
That 1v
Frost
2 at
in
the,
in the
yeah, the
12th round
round 12, yeah,
forced
that's the one, yeah.
overtime. Without that round, Knights would have qualified instead of Gaming Gladiators, and that's really worth pointing it out because I think that some APAC teams always struggled in mentality or this kind of rounds. They always throw them, but they have that clutching potential that might be really important in international events.
Yeah.
So yeah. About the Damwon-Kia comparison, I'm not that sure about that.
I mean, if they get to the playoffs, then yes. But
Yeah, I
otherwise,
mean,
until now, it
yeah,
feels
of
like it.
course, of course,
Yeah.
of course. But it's going to be, except for Joe, it's going to be the first international experience for all of these guys. So
Same for Damwon, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that, like that one. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. But I don't know, man. It's just comparing them to the best APAC team in, last
Mm.
year or so. It's a bit difficult. Like, I don't like to compare
Yeah,
teams
I mean, it just looks
right now.
not in terms of playstyle, but it looks like the same steps that they're taking.
Yeah,
Like
sure, but
it kind of
it's a
feels
bit.
very similar in that regard. But
Yeah.
without the
What I would
drama
say
that,
about
yeah,
yeah,
sorry,
you can. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no,
what I would say about this result is just a confirmation about the a big event that's happening lately, especially in Brazil, with
tier
the
two.
passion being a more intuitive way of winning the games than the experience. Just like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, it Knights was the more experienced team, and Gladiators Gaming just had the passion and the energy for winning it. And in
Hmm.
Brazil, once you see Team One,
Yeah.
W7M, and these other things going over NIP, FaZe Clan, and other things just proves that something is changing in the game. So maybe if you have more passionate things and you have a different kind of thinking about it, maybe you can overcome this experience and qualify through all of these
Yeah.
things, just like Dark Wolves did the last stage.
Yeah, and I think that is like the main thing that when if you watch the interviews that Gaming Gladiators has been giving throughout the stage, is essentially they claim that they're playing without fear, which is obviously not true. Obviously, you have a little bit of fear every single time, but it was more like they are able to manage it. They are able to like keep it aside and just focus on the task at hand, on the game day, play the game that's in front of you, and just step by step. Which is, as David said, it's something that a lot of APAC teams struggle with, and who better to highlight that in terms of that than my next team that I want to talk about, also an APAC, IG, and oh,
It's that moment of the
Twister,
week, right?
Twister. I don't know if you
Poor
watched
Jake.
this match. Did you watch that match? Did you watch
No,
this
no,
match?
no, I
Okay,
didn't. It
don't.
was too early here.
Oh my god, this they were 6-1 up against Direwolves, IG, okay? They were 6-1 up on Theme Park against Direwolves, and they lost that
No way.
7-8.
No
7
way.
to 8. I think this is like the third
Yeah.
or fourth time in the season, the stage, sorry, and like a lot more in the season, I think, that they have given up when they were like basically they need one round and they cannot convert it. Their stage so far, this stage, started with 6-8 loss against Knight, 8-6 win against Gaming Gladiators, 7-8 against loss against Elevate, then regulation, 6-8 loss against Chiefs, 8-6 against Fury, and 7-8 against Direwolves. These guys just cannot close out a game.
And I mean, the situation that IG is right now, of course, it's a different kind of situation. But I've already been there, like winning 6-0, I think you
Yeah.
guys remember, and lose a game where all your
Yeah.
choices and all your attitudes into the server just not work. And you do a tactical pause to try to bring the team together, and things just continue to not fit in. And I don't know, maybe there's a energy between that match that is not just allow you to win, even on 1v1s, even on
Yeah.
3v2s, and that kind of situations. But I believe that the situation of IG is a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
because once it can happen in one game. I mean, it's ugly,
Yeah.
but it can happen. But
Four
once it
times,
happens,
five times.
but 5 times, I mean, it's a big problem there, and I don't think it's tactical. I think if they are
Mm-hmm.
if they are good to go up into a 6-1 or 6-2 even times, they are good on tactics. They are good on structure, but something on their mental just don't let them to close the games. So this is what enter. This is where I enter the second important thing that I think that happens in esports. That's a psychologist and a work
Yes.
around the mind of the players. I mean, if you are not able to win the games, you can have the best tactical of the world. You can have the best players of the world. You are not just closing it out. You can look at G2 right now. They have a lot of good players. They have a lot of talent on that team, but they were not able to just close out the games. They were not just able to convert all that talent into results. And once something changed right there, lately, and this already changes a lot. So I can say that is tactical because I just analyzed one of their games and it was pretty
Hmm.
much the same thing, but the attitude of them and the mentality in the game, it changed for sure, and it shows that it's one of the most important things to close games, and this is what I think it's missing on IG right now.
I think you're absolutely right. And they last week they mentioned uh they mentioned about they have like no specific like trained leadership role in that team. Like none of the players have really been proper leaders. And like in stage one, Hysterics had mentioned like a lot of people are like calling, which is good. Like if you want to make like a split-second decision, like okay, the site's empty, let's rush, because we think we can do it. One player spots it, then he just calls it, um, which makes it faster, of course. But of course, when everyone is doing the same thing, that kind of like overlaps and people can't decide who exactly to follow. So maybe a little bit more structure required from IG. You're right. The fact that they go up 6-1, 6-2, 6-3 like a couple of times this stage, they are a good team. Just that's why it's more painful. Because clearly they have the potential, but they just cannot close it out. Well,
Believe me, this is hard. This is hard.
yeah.
6-0 lead, lose a 6-0 lead, it's almost close to have a hammer in your head,
Yeah,
just
it
like that.
reminds me of that time like last year, like last year when Cloud9 was doing that every other game. Like they would go up 6-0 and they'll lose 8-6, and it was just like,
Yeah,
what?
it's pretty much the same. It's
Yeah,
all about mentality.
yeah. Well, moving on from APAC in that case, let's go over to a region that is still pretty much happening. It's not like pretty much concluded. It will conclude on Monday. EUL. And what happened in EUL this week? Well, Rogue qualified, so good on Rogue. And with Rogue's qualification, this also means that Spoit in his first season at this level, first competitive season, forget at this level, first competitive season, period, stage, he has made it to an international event. And I think that is a really, really impressive feat because Spoit's stats have been really impressive. I think David, you've been highlighting his stats like over the few weeks as well. That Spoit has actually really been doing quite well.
Yeah, Spoit has been really, really good for Rogue. In fact, he's like the highest rated player in Europe, which is
Oh.
insane considering that his debut was like 1 month ago.
Yeah.
Regardless of, I mean, we knew that Spoit was a really good player. I mean, you just have to go to his YouTube channel and or
Mm.
Twitch streams or whatever. You know that he has got it, like he has that talent. But you don't expect a player like that to handle all the pressure because heading to the Europe's top flight with just 18-year-old, there's and like he's a spoiled. There was so much pressure, and he has done it so well that like it's just unbelievable. I cannot imagine how this player is going to be when he reaches his full potential because he right now dominates in terms of rating, KD. He has
Entry.
one of the best entries in Europe. He's just insane and he's doing wonders. We'll see how he does in Berlin, but I expect something that's going to be like very very close to the online version. Like, yeah, Rogue. I mean, they lost to Pounds, but 1 point was enough to qualify for Berlin, which also means that Fresh is going to get Boo Hair, but that's not a thing. But yeah, I think that Rogue are in a very good shape. They're going in the right direction, and let's see what they can do in Berlin, what they have on store. Because Europe is not in a really good position. We can agree that Europe is like the third, if not the fourth best region right now. Third, fourth, depending on
Third, I
Damwon
think. No, I think third for sure. I would agree with
I
that.
would say third.
and
Yeah.
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 But Rogue is one. Yeah, I think so, third. Yeah. Wolves and Broke. We'll see what they do in Berlin. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you all, and Spoit it's doing wonders in UL, but I think this is most part of why he's been so incredible as a player. To have a so structured mindset and perform in your first
Hmm.
stage, it's not such
Yeah,
a normal
Exactly.
thing. I mean, you have great players from Brazil, from NA, from EU that didn't have a so much good debut, just like Pambazu, Fancy, Pino, Moody, and all this. They are pretty much good players, even champions in some cases, but they didn't have really good debuts because probably when you are debuting, you are just a 18 young
yeah,
man that just want just want to go and click some heads and have a good time. But once you get into the professional tournaments and the professional matches, you see this is not all. You have to learn some things. You have to have experience time. But I think this experience time from Spoit was too fast. He just learned a lot about that qualifier back there
Yeah.
playing against Wild. I think
yeah.
this
Yeah.
was a good opportunity for him to grow up and
Agree.
show himself and learn about how is to compete on a professional level. And then after that lose, as I like to say, so a lot of players, and I think it's most part of the players need to lose to learn how to play the game. They need to
That's true.
go through
Yeah.
a losing time to see, oh, okay, this is what I need, and then can go and perform. And I think that was the lose that Rogue had, and they could
Mhm.
convert that in winning on the during this all stage, losing last game that is possible and qualify for this major. I think Spoit will be doing great right there because he's already doing great on a very higher professional level.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we can see what he can do on his second attempt at the international stage, which obviously is going to be Berlin. Um, yeah, Rogue honestly looked pretty exciting. Meepy is, I think, doing good coaching work with the team. Clearly, he did well with Sweden, getting to the semifinals, like way well above expectations, way beyond them. And now, I guess it was pretty clear. I think, and not to be like a little bit harsh to Rips, but like, look, Rips was not the answer. We people could see that for year, okay, I wouldn't want to say years, but months at least. Because like, I mean, we have we have some like one of our staff members. He was just like, for a long time, he has been saying Rips needs to go for from Rogue, and Rogue will instantly turn into like a legendary team. And well, it's looking like it's happening. Okay, it's
Yeah,
it could
the coach
happen.
job, it needs time to work out. You need to know the players. You need to have the right fit with
Hmm.
the group that you
And
have. You need maybe change some players sometimes because you cannot just enter a team and expect that everything will work. Maybe sometimes you have to change. Maybe sometimes a player has to change it, and it took time. So never expect a coach just to join a team and give the results that
yeah,
the players want to. It's
yeah.
a time job. It's medium to long term job. Coaching join a team. It's just a fast work when maybe the team is already on a mess. So the coach can just fix some things and then the results appear. But if not, if the team is already medium, is already a group, it's even harder to reach the players to turn into a top level team, to turn into a champion team.
Now, well, of course, just quickly before we move on from Rogue, we also I think should really highlight the other top flight debutant on that team because let's be real, it's not just Spoit who debuted. Deepek,
Yep.
first time
Hmm.
in the EUL, and he's done pretty well with 1.07 rating.
Hmm.
He did better than Leon Gids. He did better than Counter Akeri. And sure, those guys were like on like support-ish roles, more harder support, but like so was Deepek. Deepek was an ace and mute main in the season. So in the stage, so really impressive. Two clutches, four plants. You really couldn't ask for much more from a player like that. Um,
Yeah.
what other stuff happened in the UL this week? Well, BDS won the French derby. Now, of course,
Yep.
Wolves already qualified. Didn't really have that much to play for, but still, it keeps them in the conversation for the Berlin major.
Hmm. Yeah. Um. Do you want to say something, Twister?
Yeah, I would say that BDS has this incredible magic that they use it. Start the season losing or start the season not winning some easy matches, but once they need to win some tough matches, they just appear and are able to win it. It happened on some stages back there, and I remember just seeing BDS doing wonders as well on result things. Just when everyone expect them to lose, everyone expect them to have just a worse season, and then they are able to make it. It happened the last season with the Charlotte Major when
Mhm.
they were not good enough to qualify, losing some easy matches, and then when it was mosted more than to win some matches to qualify, they just show it up and surprised
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, yeah, don't really know what more to say. Like, Wolves didn't really have much to play for. BDS
Yeah.
on paper have an insane team. They really should be doing a lot better, but it feels like this is like the end. As we've been talking for like a couple of weeks now about BDS, and we will talk a little bit more about them in just a couple of seconds. Um, because there are four teams left, and they're going to be competing for two final spots. But before we go on to that, like, we also should, I think, we should highlight, and I want to highlight this personally, not only to toot our own horn, but if you guys read David's article
Mm-hmm.
recently that was released, and basically it was talking about Pones and their situation in the EU League this year, this whole season. It's not been great. No salary since March, no boot camps, and Nico had to break into like his reserves to fix his computer to continue playing in the EUL. And then after that, he had like trouble with his bank, and he had to eat bread only for 2 to 3 days, just bread, nothing else. Financial security is really problematic. Technically, Nico claims that he's not even signed by Empire, like he doesn't even have a contract with them. Empire hasn't
Yeah.
responded to this, not even after we publish it on Twitter. Um,
Yeah.
so
It's worth saying that we contacted Team Empire first before uh, speaking to Nico, and they didn't reply. They didn't get in touch with us. So yeah, and then that's when we started talking to Nico. The realist Russian also uh, uh, spent some time, like talking to us. Um, and yeah, it's a really tough situation that shouldn't happen in the Europe stop flight, but we know what's the conflict right now, and
yeah,
it's really, really difficult because Empire, well, both Empire and Virtus Pro, Pounds and Outsiders, were kicked out of the Rainbow Six Share program, which means they don't get that money. You cannot buy the team's skins anymore since March. So that's yeah. The team, I guess, has struggles, and Nico is, there are other two members with financial problems, and yeah, hope their situation is fixed soon.
yeah.
It's
Really
really
nothing
sad
more to
when you
say.
see a
Yeah,
tier one a team going through all of this. We had some similar situations here in Brazil, and fortunately, it ended on a good way.
yeah. Unfortunately for Poland, it doesn't look like any ends in sight because, of course, as long as the war drags on. Sorry, the sanctions will drag on, and of course, uh, that will affect these
Yeah.
guys. But despite that, some bright spots for them. Both the Russian teams won their games this week. Outsiders beat Eminem 7-4. A really huge victory that like Eminem were set to qualify if they didn't lose, by the way. And
Hmm.
there's like a fair chance that like they might not qualify because Poland as well, who they play on Monday, Poland beat Rogue 8-7 in maximum overtime. So I mean, David, you of course watched the games in full
Hmm.
in live. What happened with like Rogue and Eminem?
First of all, Eminem, they went well wild to say in some manner. They decided to ban Jaeger. They started from the attacking side. Uh, but despite the Jaeger ban, Outsiders won 5 of the 6 defenses, which they were playing Cafe, pretty defensive sided map. But still, that made the difference. And yeah, we are used to see Eminem struggle in very important moments in the season. Last stage, they didn't qualify for Charlotte because they lost to Pounds and Secret, which last year, last year and last year, sorry, last stage and this stage, were like the 2 bottom teams in the standings. So these are some games that you cannot afford to lose if you want to qualify for the stages major. Regarding Rogue, I think that yeah, I mean
They got
they
6
just
points and they're
needed a
like, whatever.
yeah, they just needed a point to qualify, and they got it. I think
But
that when
still, I mean,
they
Pawns made it to overtime.
yeah, exactly. But I
It
think
was
that when
close,
they
right?
got to overtime, like, because I cannot remember now if Rogue got no, actually Rogue forced Rogue forced the overtime.
Yeah. It was looking like
Yeah.
Pawns were going to win. Pawns
Mm,
were up like
yeah, true.
6-2 at one point.
Yeah, 6-2 or 6-3. I don't
Yeah.
remember now. Yeah.
That's a good team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really really good. And on Clubhouse, I mean,
Yeah.
that's really really. Yeah, I think that Pawns were about to win, but I don't know, struggle like in their mental game or Rogue, but finally just figured things out. And yeah, that single point actually got them Berlin major spot. So yeah, we will see them in Berlin.
Yeah.
Probably when these things happens in the games, what it's a usual thing to happen, it's about the mental game of pressure. Once the
Yeah.
other team is already on the match point, usually some part of the teams that are on the losing side know that the pressure is on the other team, so start to try more different stuff, try more to do risky things. And most part of the times when this team that is on the advantage starts to not working so confident, to not doing some advanced things, or stop to doing the game that they were usually doing before. So this way, the other team has the opportunity to grow, and with this opportunity, if you can fit and if you have Spoit and Cry in your team, probably you will just get shots and get shots fixed, and you is managed to go to the OT. And I think that's all the Rogue needs to qualify, right? It was an OT.
The OT, yeah.
So
Yeah,
so once they had it, they had no pressure anymore even to win the round.
yeah.
So that's why I think that Pauls was able to finish the match for them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is
But
also important mentioning that Exodus finished
yes.
with an entry record of 2-7, seven opening deaths,
And
which is
still they won.
yeah, it's yeah, and still won. So yeah, I think that the game was right here.
Yeah. No, that absolutely right. Which obviously brings us into the next point. So now we got 4 teams, as we said, BDS being one of them, and Eminem, Heroic, and G2 being the other 3, who are fighting for these final 2 positions in the Berlin Major. Now, the match will start off. The play day will start off outside of the Wolves this Monday, which is pointless for pretty much everyone. And maybe some SI points here and there. But it really gets interesting when Pwns plays Eminem. Now, Pwns have really galvanizing factor, as we shared. They are playing for
Mhm.
pride. They're trying to prove to like the people, because people are like unfairly, I think, criticizing them. Even like fellow pros like Benja Master has been laughing at Pwns, and which is I think a little bit rude because Pwns are really in an extremely tough situation. So Pwns are playing for pride, and it's a very strong motivator, especially and I don't want to say like we're influencing anything, but like with this article coming out, for them to like for this story to be kind of be out there, I don't know, it might give them a little bit more,
Yeah.
of a push. And they play Eminem, who, as David pointed out, not only did they lose to Outsiders 7-4, another Russian team, they choked very similarly for the Charlotte Major, as he said, like they lost to Pwns and then they lost to Team Secret, who are the bottom 2 teams in the EUL, both stages. So very good chance that Pwns, who were 6-2 up against Rogue, could actually win 3 points against M&M, which puts M&M in a really, really, really tough spot, because then they need to pray that Heroic win, heroic win, or like actually, yeah, heroic
Forces overtime.
yeah, heroic force overtime. They need to play the heroic force overtime, and that BDS also maximum.
Exactly.
You know, they don't win regulation, and but the funny thing is, BDS, who did they play? They play secret. So G2 plays heroic, BDS plays secret, and Pones plays M&M. These are the 3 matchups for these 4 teams. I don't know about you, like I could see G2 just bringing themselves back into this, very similar to how NIP did from like 9th to like and 6%. And I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, I think, to David. But like it's G2 have this in their own hands. They have to beat Heroic, who are the direct competition. M&M could choke this. They have choked it before. And then BDS need to just kind of close it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have to win, but they cannot afford to go to overtime, so they need the
Yes. 3
regulation
points.
victory. Yeah, let's say that they win 10-5. Okay, that would put them in 3rd or 4th place, depending on M&M's gaming result. Let's say that the M&M wins.
Yeah.
G2 would be like with 15 points and a round difference of 8 plus 8.
Yes.
BDS has a round difference of plus 4, which means that they cannot. A 7-3 victory would be enough because they defeated G2 on Bila 7-5. So yeah, just remember tiebreakers. The first difference is round differential. That's why I'm pointing this out. It's not going to be like. It's going to be important to check not just the result, but also like the score. Every round is going to matter. So it's going to be like a really, really, really interesting play day. Honestly, I mean it's the last one. It's always very interesting, but especially this one, every round counts. So yeah, we will see. And remember last stage, we saw G2 losing to BDS 7-1 on Clubhouse, and they needed Heroic's help to qualify for Charlotte.
Yeah.
Now we have G2 facing Heroic, so it's kind of hilarious.
They are not grateful for what Heroic did for them. Not grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they will be grateful, and they'll be like, you know what, you can have Berlin
Yeah.
Major. Oh yeah, we're in the city anyway, right? So
Uh, I think just like the NAL last play day, this play day
yeah,
will be pretty incredible.
fireworks.
Once
Yeah.
you have 2 teams that still can qualify, you have actually 2 spots for 4 teams that still can qualify, and plenty of things can happen. So I'm pretty interesting thing. Just like as you said, NIP was able to do it and qualify from a dead spot in
Copa Elite
their
Six.
league. The
Yeah.
same for us and Furia. In the last
Yeah.
stage, we were
Yes.
like in 9th place.
9th,
I
same
know.
thing.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Insane.
so it's totally possible that G2 can make it, especially looking in their last results. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they have pretty good chances of doing it.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. Like I think like this final EL play day is going to be superbly exciting. Even if you argue that okay, whatever, like EL is not as good as Brazil or like NAL, which it isn't. But
Yeah.
like entertainment value is there for this
Yeah.
final play day.
It's there. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Now over in NAL, before we really get to Brazil and like Copa Elite Six, over in the NAL, no games happened, but we did get 2 big news. Supr, despite the fact that Sonics have qualified for the Berlin Major, Supr has said that he feels this is the time to retire, and he said he's not going to be a content creator for Sonics. He may be a coach. He hasn't ruled that out, but he's retiring after the Berlin Major is over. I don't know whether if like they win, whether that would change his mind, because I think winning probably would change his mind. But yeah, that's happening. And the other thing that's happening is that Chala has been dropped from TSM. He was benched, and he's decided like, okay, I want to take a break from Siege. Maybe it's a retirement, maybe it's not. Maybe like Beast Coast pick him up next season. They give him enough money. Something happens, but big changes because like Sonics, for example, as I said, they could still win in Berlin, and
Yeah.
Chala just 5 months ago won the world
Mm.
championship with TSM.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's
that
yeah.
you can
Go
go.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think that Chala would be a good pick for any of the other teams. He has plenty of experience and he's still a young player. So I believe that he could add in any of the other teams, especially that other teams that are humoring to change players as well to fit super places. So I think it would be just a good thing for them, and I believe this is the next window on NAL will be the most exciting one because we
Mhm.
will see really different stuff there. We already see four different things announcing changes, so they are not happy with what's happening in with their results. So we seeing these changes will help us a lot to see some new faces and maybe some new experience in NAL, and I think this is very
Yeah.
important for and healthy for the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, like to that, we also have to point out that Skies, for those that don't who don't know, Skies is also leaving Space Station Gaming. Well, he also
Mhm.
left. So yeah, we'll see like very like new players, and it's going to be a very interesting um, transfer market. Is going to be like on fire, honestly. So yeah, I can't wait for that.
And
Yeah, big things happening. I think Super's already teased that it's gonna be chaotic, which was to like I think yeah. We also have like Rafinha reporting. Like
Mm-hmm.
TSM.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rafinha will help us with that. Rafinha,
Yeah. I
Rafinha,
mean
manda salve.
yeah, Rafinha, he's been reporting apparently that TSM obviously TSM not gonna sign anyone just yet, but they have said TSM that they're gonna be trialing the new player because TSM go to Gamers 8, which is just next week. Let me remind you, August 4th. So the report from Rafinha, and I think this close, I think his report is going to be absolutely accurate. They are trialing Poison.
Mm-hmm.
I have zero clue who Poison is, but like a lot of people on Reddit, and I know Reddit's not the best barometer, but a lot of people on Reddit
Yeah.
were skeptical. They were saying Rafinha is wrong, this is bait or whatever. But I think look, if it's so close, I think Rafinha's got it right. But I don't know.
but
Are you guys familiar with Poison?
Actually, I think that TSM is just one of the 10 NAL teams that have two substitute players in their coach staff. So you have
Yeah.
Bojo that already fit in the team earlier before and got top three at the
Yeah,
Invitational, and you had Gotcha that is just a player that was a champion of a DreamHack with them in Montreal.
yeah, that's right.
So I don't think they are desperate to get someone soon and fit into this tournament. I would be more concerned about SSG that just dropped
Oh
skies
yeah,
as well and they have to play this tournament. So I think TSM is on good
apparently they're
hands.
signing
Whenever they
Dexter.
pick, they will be good.
Like that is the report from Rafinha, right? Dexter, who is like
Dex,
an
yeah.
entry player in NACL. So it's yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, and like card is pointing out in chat like life moves on. Like I don't know, and like a lot of people on Reddit were like, "Oh yeah, no, that's just like a standard Reddit, like an Instagram thing." But at this point, I would not even be surprised if TSM just took money and threw it at at like Hyper or whatever. It would be quite something to move from like you just want a major and just you switch teams, but weirder things have 100% happened like everywhere. So I don't know. The report also, I think it's is that Gunner is being targeted by Sonics, but I think that one might be a little bit premature. It might be right in the end, but it looks like it's premature a little bit because Super's said that they're still in the trialing phase. So Gunner is most likely on the list. I don't doubt that. But yeah, we will still see whether we have like Gunner signed as well. I don't know. It will obviously require some role shifts. I think SSG are
Yeah.
also going to be shifting roles. I
SSG.
think it
Yeah.
has to. Yeah, they have to. Um, Sonics are probably going to shift roles as well. It's really hard to find like an IGL who, like, for all of Super's faults, and I don't know what it looks like to you as a coach, Twister, but like for all of Super's faults, he looked like he was a pretty dang good IGL for taking that ridiculously bad EU United roster into the best in NAL.
I mean, you have this soft spot in the game where you can have a player just like Supr that doesn't add much in the gun skill and directly into the game, but is able to bring the team together to fix what is happening in the game and being able to manage the team to get these situations just like Canadian, for example, did in one of their worst situations. I don't think that
Yeah.
in SSG he performed well, but his experience and his game knowledge helped SSG to win an six invitational. So it was not about game skill. It was about reuniting the group and make everything else that is needed. And I think Super is trying to be that guy. But as you said before, I don't think that even they win in this major, he would change his mind. I think he already knows that his time is over, and maybe assuming a coach role in the team will help the team to perform better. Will help him to have a more impactful situation with the team, and I think it would be better for both of them in Sonics.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair situation, especially if he continues with the Sonics as a coach. That would allow him to still have that mental impact, I guess. And
Yeah.
maybe he feels like at this point the team is like strong enough without him being
Yeah,
like in the com server every single moment. He doesn't need to be talking all the time, and that they can basically manage that much without him. So he's like, okay, maybe like this is the time. This is a good time to step away. And
you
he
can
said
add
that for a
another
long
gunner.
time. Yeah, I mean, he said it for a long time. Like, look, if I can find someone to replace me, I will step away. And I might be. I don't think I'm imagining this, although I'm doubting myself a little bit. I'm not too sure, but I think he said this well back in the day. But
And maybe this is
sorry,
the step that maybe this is the step that Sonics needs to win a tournament, because just
potentially,
like
yeah,
TSM did, they step it
yeah,
up Mojo and try to assume Chala in the spot, and they were able to win a tournament with that. I mean, it's not just that move, but of course this helps.
yeah. Well, that would be pretty interesting. I actually cannot wait to see how everything plays out at the end of this. But we waited a long time. And well, it's time to let you shine, Twister and David. And I'm the one who is the outnumbered this time around because we're essentially just gonna debrief the Copa Elite Six at this point. So as I said at the start, yeah, the cheer start. As I said at the start, look, it's pretty much the Copa Elite Six. Yes, there are games going on today, and the games going on like tomorrow. I think whatever, right? It doesn't really matter at this point.
Today.
Today.
Tomorrow, and day after. Yeah, today, tomorrow, and day after. They have games, but those games are really just proceeding at this point. And as Teacher said a few weeks back when we had him on, in Brazil, the quality is so high, and when you go to international tournaments, the quality is so high. Whether you're first, second, third, fourth seed, it doesn't really matter. The main thing that I guess makes a difference is the prize pool. So for all intents and purposes, Copa Elite Six is done. We have Ninjas in Pajamas and FaZe Clan who qualified first. Following them were obviously the other two Brazilian teams, Furia and W7 Esports, and of course we have the ex-coach Twister of Furia, NIP, and FaZe Clan here with us. So he just needs to go and coach W7M before he comes back on this show, I
Yeah,
guess.
or maybe if BD would be able
Yeah,
to make the
back to
tournament.
back to the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe with you they can finally make a major again, right? But yeah, talk us through, like, I don't know how you guys want to structure this, but talk us through everything that has happened. We talked a little bit about how it's you only need one upset for Mexican or Argentinian teams to qualify, or South American teams to qualify. But look, it didn't even look close, did it, at any point, except for like Furia against Cruelty.
I want to ask Twister one question, and I just want to know Why does Furia struggle so much against Mexican teams? If
Uh,
because as a former coach of the team, I always wondered because it's not the first time last stage the team struggled against Pampas. Like last season we saw them losing to other teams. Like I think it was at Ateris. We always have seen Furia struggling against Mexican teams. So I wondered why is that?
No, just like the last season with Pampas, it was another SU team here in Latin America, and it's a close team that we usually to scream on. So it's a team that usually knows us, that usually is know what's happening in the game. So I think that Furia results it's around the mentality of games because most part of the teams right there, as I said before, has the experience to know that it's just one more game, it's just one more situation that you have to play and you have to win and that's it. But the Furia team and W7M as well, it's pretty young players that most part of the times already played international events, already played on that situations, but we are probably we are making roster changes every season mostly. So they are reuniting all the situations where you get young people entering the team and having to go through all this stuff and passing through all the situations that the others passed before, but were not able just to handle things alone. So that's why it's missing so much things. But I believe that that experience makes them to win always, besides all the upsets and all the situations. But as I heard before, Furia result against Cruelty was not a regular one. It was happening some issues, some health issues with some of the players, so they couldn't be able to play the fully what they were able to. But in the other games, as you saw, you just saw FaZe Clan superior, and you saw them superior to Six Karma as well. So I believe there was no problem. I think we will see the real matches starting today, but not on a fully potential. As you said
Correct.
before, the
Yeah.
spots are already guaranteed. So I think we will see more ego matches and more money matches that you just want to win. But once you lose, you say, "Oh, nah, I didn't want to win that at all." So it was this kind of mentality.
Yeah, I mean, as Shikar pointed out, these games are pointless, but you are just playing for cash, which is important, obviously.
And the
But
ego.
do you really want to
Pones will 100%
show?
agree with you.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Do you want to show your strats in a best of three when the other regions don't play best of threes in their respective leagues? I don't think so. So yeah.
Yeah, I think they are doing plenty much of the same thing. They will repeat some of the strats, will not prepare something, maybe
Exactly.
doing some fast games to maybe have some fun. This can happen sometimes. So I think what we will be doing right now, besides the grand final, that maybe the players will play for the championship. I think it will be more fun matches, more usual matches, retrying FaZe Clan of this equation because FaZe Clan always want to win every matches in every games, and they get mad if they don't win it. So I think FaZe Clan will give us a good show, and maybe they're reaching the finals early with that game today.
Yeah. So okay, so I guess talk us through like the performance of these South American and Mexican teams because it doesn't look like they are anywhere close to the level of the Brazilian teams. Like, as obviously you had Cruelty take a map off and actually really went to 7-5 on Theme Park. We could have seen that upset that Hyder talked about in his article a couple of weeks back. But aside from that one, like, I guess, misstep from Furia, after that, it was like Furia beat Six Karma 2-0 with an overtime map. But it doesn't really look like they are quite there yet. And the concept of Copa Elite Six been criticized as well. What were, like, I guess, highlights in this Copa Elite Six from these South American and Mexican teams?
I think that right now, what we see from Isurus,
Mm.
it would be a pretty good beginning against W7M. They looked like they would play like equal to equal at the first time, but once the game was on a major stage, they were not able just to gunfight and to
Mm.
prepare against W7M, and the rounds just fall apart. And I believe that the best highlight that we had in this tournament. It was against Furia from the teams like
Yeah.
Cruelty, as you said, winning one map and doing a pretty good Chala. I think they just didn't close the map earlier because they didn't have the they didn't have the power to do it. They didn't have the level. But if it was any other team, it would be able to finish the map early. And then in the Dam Park, we had a really slow game from their side, a really slow lecture. I don't know if you remember Klozaki, but you saw most part of the times they playing defense in advanced spots that were not working, and they didn't have the lecture to retire from that spots and maybe defend on closer rooms, on closer crossed angles. And when this adaptation come, they were able to almost win on rounds. But Furia was able to just close the game, and I believe this experience from their coach, from their team, of having this game lecture made the difference between they winning or they losing. And
Yeah.
remember, if they won that game against Furia, Furia would not be eliminated, but for regulation, we would have a Brazilian team outside the major. So we would
Yep.
have another team playing on the major, like Sulao or Mexico. So
Yeah.
this was a very important match for Brazil, and maybe Furia could get out a spot from Brazil losing that game.
Yeah, I also remember because after the game against Six Karma, I started talking to some Mexican people and some people from South America, and we were talking about the mentality issues that Mexican teams have. The amount of rounds that they choke. I remember against Furia, they were like it was 6-5. Six Karma were winning. The like they were on attack. They were 4 versus 2, and then they started like getting into side without like very little information, and then Furia forcing the overtime and winning the map eventually. I was talking to them, and I think that Mexican teams have still some things to fix, especially mentality. Mentality is from my point of view, I think Mexicans struggle from that a lot.
Yeah, I can say that for sure because most part of the times the Mexican and solo teams doesn't have the time playing at the top level.
Yeah.
This last year was their first experience playing against like Estral, playing the qualifier on a high level, and the Sulao and Mexican teams in the other Elite Six last year. It was their first stage, and once before we saw Brazil playing on the Pro League level and all the tournaments at the beginning of the game. We saw a different kind of Brazil that is mature today, that is really good and experienced teams in the region and is able to win tournaments. I think once Mexican teams and solo teams were able to go through these situations and have this experience and got plenty of times on the almost there and maybe change the mentality with the psychologists, with the group way of work, maybe it can happen because as we saw many times, we saw the Mexican teams especially almost winning the Brazilian teams. Almost, it's always most. It's
Almost.
just like
Yeah.
Estral,
Almost. Yeah.
Ruti, and all the others. It's always almost. So once you go after a stage after this almost, you maybe are able to qualify for the stage. So
Mm.
I think that it took time, but maybe someday
Yeah.
Mexicans will be able to do it.
I'm quite sure because we always have that team that stands out from the rest.
Yeah.
I
This time it was
remember
cruelty.
not just Mexico but South America, Malvinas Gaming on
Yes.
stage 3, I think it was. They almost qualified, not that clear, but they, you know,
They
it
look
was
good.
like
Yeah.
BLK. It was BLK's stage where he
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely demolished everyone. He was
I
insane.
remember.
Yeah. Then last stage we had Pampas. We always have like six car, no, six car on Team Cruelty. Sorry. We had, like, as you mentioned, Australia Sports. We always have those teams that stand out in the event, but they cannot uh, uh, you know, uh, qualify
Break the
for the
final seal.
international. Yeah,
Yeah, they
exactly.
don't break the
And
final
that's
seal.
just so it's sad. It's sad because you really want to see how do they perform in an international tournament, because qualifying for an international event, having to play against Brazilian teams, it's just insane. It's crazy. It's so difficult. Once we have a Mexican team in an international stage, because in an international stage, yes, because I'm sure that we will eventually have one. Uh, I really, it could not win the tournament, but playing against European teams and North American teams is going to be like really really cool, and maybe they upset some. So yeah, hopefully that happens.
Yeah, I think this is a natural path that other teams have to go through. I mean, you can compare this to Brazilian winning international events. You
Yeah, that's
saw
true.
Brazilians getting almost most part of
Hmm.
the times, just like FaZe Clan and Black Dragons with me in the pro leagues here in Brazil. You
Yeah.
saw Liquid Black Dragons with the Zigueira lineup in the pro league Katowice. You
Hmm.
saw SSG in the Invitational on 2020. So Brazil had to go through these situations, through these almost situations, until figure out what is needed, until figure out what that a group needs for reaching that spot, and then after that, all the regions unlocked that skill and were able to qualify. So I believe this is the stage of the Mexican and solo teams right now. They're still trying to figure out what is needed most when you are playing a decisive match, when you are playing an elimination match, and especially to defeat some of the Brazilian teams because it's a really tough region, and the top four are just the best from the best of what I believe is a top one region right today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
yeah. Hopefully they can kick on, because like as as we've said, this format does give a little bit of a chance to
Hmm.
these teams. They just need one team to pull off an upset, and they're through. One team just needs to do it, and they'll be fine. So yeah. Hopefully, hopefully they earn their place. Hopefully it's not just like, oh, it's like an upset thing, but that will take time, as you guys said. Now, what I want to talk next about with Copa Elite Six is, I think the big one that's coming out of this, like NIP, because not only like we've talked about this a couple of times, so we're only going to mention this one last time. From ninth to fourth, with a 6% chance of qualifying for Copa Elite Six. They qualified for Copa Elite Six, and then what do? They beat Six Karma 2-0. And the bigger one, they beat W7M 2-0. Like 7-3, 7-5. That's how they get the qualification, through the upper bracket, not through the lower bracket. Through the upper bracket with a dominant win against W7M. I mean, talk like talk us through exactly like how on earth, I guess putting Psycho on IGL, right? Psycho's the IGL now,
No,
right?
kamikaze.
Kamikaze, putting Kamikaze on the IGL. How is that like
Hmm.
just changed this team?
Actually, what I heard from them lately, it was Pino was trying out in the IGL.
Oh, okay.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I think that kamikaze tweeted out something today.
Psycho, I
Not
think
today.
tweeted
Like
out or something.
after.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait a
Psycho
second.
is the
Wait a second.
capital, just like it's a leader from the group. But I heard that Pino on interviews after the Elite Six
Ah,
matches and BR6, he was trying out the IGL. Maybe it changed for this last match, I don't know. But I remember to see during the BR6 on this last stage, he's
yeah.
saying that he
Psycho
was
said
trying out the
three
I
IGL.
got
weeks
I
ago.
got the tweet. I got the
Yeah.
tweet, and kamikaze tweeted after defeating W7M by 2-0 that, well, the typical message that they are qualified for Berlin, and a message saying that they are still unbeaten when they played with him as the
Oh,
IGL.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
sure if that's That's true,
Yeah,
but
so
yeah.
maybe it changed, maybe it changes again. So they were trying
Hmm.
out a lot of different people on this IGL thing, maybe not keeping Psychon on it. But
Hmm.
what I could say from that game, I think W7M just messed with the veto. They pick it up bank trying to surprise an IP, but it
Yeah.
wasn't a surprise at all. And the NIP was just able to finish the map on a massive win. I think the most part of the rounds they were just on the total control. Even in disadvantage, they knew what they need to do. They could be able to do advanced pushes together as a team, and W7M was just not clicking heads. So I think that on this map it was just NIP superiority, and they were able just to close out a very big and important game that it was their peak. But once they went to the chalet, it was a little bit different. It was a pretty confident map from W7M. It's known here in Brazil that they,
Yeah.
they like very much to play that
Hmm.
map, and they are very confident on it.
You can ask them
But
IBR.
Yeah.
and Furia.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I think that right now on that stage, maybe the mentality was a little bit shaked from W7M,
Hmm.
and the players from NIP was already very confident. And with that confidence, they could convert. And even in disadvantage on the rounds, they would be able to manage to stay calm, doing the right lectures, doing the right pushes together, being able to win the gunfights and finish the map the best way that they could. And it was a very, I believe it was a very good match to watch. Even if you are not a fan from an IPL W7M, it's a pretty interesting match for you to watch.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Wizard?
I think. I think.
Is he frozen?
Yeah. I think we just lost Twister for a second right here. Hopefully, we can get him back soon.
Uh,
Yeah.
what
Hello.
what would we be without technical issues? We would be
Yeah.
nothing.
Twister looking good, but yeah, I think he is frozen right now.
Yeah,
So,
I think he is.
uh, we can talk a little bit more, I guess. David,
Yeah,
your thoughts on like just NIP's chances? I guess that would
I
be like
think
my
I
next
think that
question in Berlin.
it, for in Berlin, I think that NIP is growing so much now because they are getting the right results. They have beaten W7M in a, as Twister said, very comfortable way, and showing their real strength. I think that they are finally figuring out like how to play, not just Siege, but with Wizard in the squad. Because keep in mind that Wizard is the first signing in ages for the team, like since October
Yeah,
2019, I think. So
yeah,
making
and I
changes
think
is
no, the
never
the
a
last
thing.
change was benching Pino and then bringing Pino back. Like that was
Yeah.
the last change
Oh,
before this one. Before
yeah.
they dropped.
So
Yeah.
exactly, and I think that yeah, I've never been, like super fan of NIP. I always said, no, they are not gonna make it, blah blah blah. But yeah, they are the
We just lost him.
Kamikaze signing to Kamikaze moving to IGL. I think that's a really good decision. That has leveled up the team's performance. Um, about their chances to win, Berlin. I'm not that sure about that. I'm not sure if their play style is going to be good against especially North American teams. Um, and we have like Wizard who has no international experience. Snippy is going to be his first international event as well. Um, so I would take it slow. I would try to get as many SI points as possible. So I think that the minimal target for the team should be like surviving to the group stage. Um, and then try to as I said, get all the SI points possible because they didn't get any in the first stage,
Yeah.
and then yeah, focus on going to SA because the LATAM SI qualifier is going to be carnage. Like it's going to be insane. Because if you look at the global standings now, there are just 3 teams among the best 16, and Team Liquid is eventually going to leave the top 16 because other teams are going to get more points in the Berlin Major and surpass Team Liquid. So momentarily, we will leave Berlin with just 2 Brazilian teams in the top 16, which is critical, honestly.
Indeed. So it seems like Twister's probably had like an internet outage because I don't see him
Yeah,
online
possibly. Yeah.
anymore. So we're trying to get him back, but like
Mhm.
obviously it's an internet outage, so no guarantees that we
Mhm.
do get him back. So we're gonna try and like press on. And I know the screen looks a little bit weird right now, um, but I'm trying to fix it. But yeah, David. So not only, I guess, just to keep you talking while I try and
Yeah,
fix
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. No worries. That's
Uh,
fine. We have done this before.
the thing that I actually was talking earlier on with Joe actually was just about how how it looks like Brazil is coming back to strength because NIP obviously made a roaring comeback, and we also have FaZe who won the Sweden Major,
Um.
missed Charlotte, and these guys are back. Like these guys are back on this stage.
Mhm.
W7M absolutely shredding it in
Yeah.
in like the BR6. So
Yeah.
like, how
I
good is Brazil going to be?
I don't think that SI left. Sorry, SI. I don't think that Brazil left us at all. Um, SI was,
True, FaZe was top three.
yeah, exactly. And prior to that, I think that Liquid and MIBR was top 4. Face Clan was top
Mm-hmm.
3. MIBR, sorry, yes, MIBR was top 4. Team Liquid was among the best 6 in the competition. And then we had like Charlotte, where we had like um, W7M debutants in an international stage. Team
Yeah.
One, except for Lagonis, everyone was debutant. Furia Sports had, Handy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they were playing from Mexico. So I don't think it's fair to say that Brazil left us. I think that we didn't see them in their
Sure, of
full
course, yeah.
potential, in their true
But I
form
mean,
exactly.
like FaZe
So yeah,
specifically,
okay, yeah, I agree
yeah,
with that.
and
Now
NIP,
we
both
have,
of these guys
yeah,
suddenly
we
coming
have,
back and in really good form. They look
yeah, and
good.
they are in really good form
Yeah,
indeed. And this is good for Brazil. Honestly, though, I think that W7M are going to be beasts. They are going to watch out because these are the guys that can actually upset NA. They have been so good in Brazil. I think that in Copa Elite Six they are just trying different things. As Twister pointed out before, the bank the bank ban. Choosing bank was
yeah,
kind of a surprise because WSNM usually bans that map. So yeah, I think that they just knew that they were eventually going to qualify, and even if they lost that game,
yeah,
facing a Mexican team would not be a huge deal for them. Um, so yeah, just take it like that. Then we have Fury Sports, as they are like a very, very good, very good team. Fury Sports has qualified for every international event since qualifying
and they did it again.
in SI 2022. They have played in every international event since then,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that only BDS can say, other than Fury, obviously. Which could, BDS could miss out on an international stage real soon if they don't sneak into the top 4 next Monday in the European League. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that Brazil is not gone, has never left us. And about what you said, I mean, NIP and FaZe Clan, they were like finalists in Sweden. FaZe Clan won the major. They were top four in SI.
Yeah.
As many people have pointed out in social media. Oh, well, yeah.
Ah, unfortunate. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
wait, because I was
yeah,
looking off
yeah, correct,
Twister.
yeah.
Have you? Okay, cool. So yes, and FaZe Clan. Oh, okay.
Hello. Somebody's back.
Hello. Just
Hi.
press. Sorry.
No
No
worries, no
worries, that's
worries.
fine.
All right.
Yeah, but
Fine.
Hopefully we
And
can
what I
see
was
that.
saying is that FaZe Clan is a very, very experienced team.
Yeah. Uh,
And I think that yeah, they could represent Brazil really, really well in Berlin, but yeah, Brazil has never left us. That's what I mean.
I mean, FaZe Clan is the most experienced team today in Brazil because they have one of the most ancient rosters in the
Yep.
siege. So we have Cameraman and Astro that play together since always. We have Cyber that is in the game since the year two. We have Bullet that was in the game since year one, and just a newcomer it was Souls, but he's already in 2 years in the
Yeah.
scene and 2 years with that roster. So that makes this roster a very together group, a very entrusted group that is able to work together through all the situations. That's why I think that they have plenty of chances of winning something with
Hmm.
this one.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
yeah. I mean, it's super exciting because like as you know, as we all know, like NA obviously by results right now is the best region, and maybe even by like skill, but that the skill one is like a little bit more arguable, and there's just so many permutations that could happen. You know, NA could win, but Brazil just, I think, like, even though they haven't won recently, there's a good chance because I think like I don't know about visas yet, but like I should get the visas quite like a lot
Yeah, yeah.
easier. Yeah, to Berlin
It's
rather than like in
it's
the
normal to
US.
Berlin.
Yeah,
Brazil can go.
so it should, like, I just like in Sweden, for example, same situation, right? So
Hmm.
um yeah, I the fact that they're all gonna be there present. FaZe obviously took the break from Charlotte, and I've been talking to a lot of these teams because not many teams are continuing over from Charlotte over into Berlin. It's
Mm.
actually like quite a few teams. Like I think what half the teams are not continuing on. Like they're not making it to Berlin. So clearly NIP and FaZe, they kind of worked at it. They took their rest. W7M, of course, they're going to be there physically for the first time. And Furia, look, they've always been there, super consistent. So I think there's a good chance we could see any of these guys absolutely bring it and
Hmm.
just give us an insane NA versus Brazil fight because look, it's been what NA versus NA in Charlotte. It was NA versus EU in SI, but then before that it was at Sweden. It was Brazil versus Brazil. So it feels good to have like that. Different regions clashing it out in the finals, and hopefully that's what we're gonna get a lot more. Berlin is gonna be super exciting, and there's gonna be a lot of fallout from it. I
Yep.
guarantee it because like yes, they have like the after the November major, they now have like a transfer window, which Twister
Mm.
unfortunately you never got to enjoy as a coach. Um, maybe you will with if you find like a team soon, but I would assume Twister. I don't know about like you, but David and I think we've been talking Hyler as well. We think like stage two is like the best time to make a roster change because you get to play a full stage with the new players, then you go to SI, or like then you go for
Yep.
the SI qualifier. Or do you think it's like not really the case?
I think the best stage for you to do in a roster change for sure is just after the SI. It's
Yeah, and
the
but like
stage that
mid season, yeah. Like right
the
now, if
uh,
you would you do it if you had to make a change if your team is not doing well, if you like have a bad Berlin or something, would you do it in stage two or like stage three?
yeah, I think this is the last spot because you still are able to play the stage three and try to make the major, and then you have a
Yeah.
time to prepare this new roster for for the qualifiers of the Six Invitation. That is the most important tournament. So
Mhm.
I believe that right now, once you didn't change the team on the first stage, or if you change it and you didn't like what looks like and you need to change it again, this is the best time, because in the third stage, if you change it, it's too risky to make into the Six Invitational. Just like W7N did the last year, they decided to change in the third stage, but they skipped the qualifiers and focused it on the BR6. They knew that they didn't have the chances to make it, and it makes everything worse for them. But fortunately, they are here and probably qualifying automatically this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting, I think. But I guess just quick thing before we move on from Copa Elite Six. I guess your predictions for today, Twister.
This is a actually today it's not that tough, but
Yeah.
considering just the results of this tournament for itself, I
Yeah.
would say that FaZe Clan would beat NIP on a
Hmm.
2-1 game, really tight at one, and I would say that W7N would beat Furia 2-0. Because I think Furia already accomplished what they needed, and they will just step ahead from this tournament right now, because it was not a good tournament from them. They just needed the games that they needed to
Yeah.
win, but I don't think that they would be able to go through W7M. W7M is not having a good time as well, but I think they still will be able to make it against Furia. And in the final, I think it would be FaZe Clan maybe against W7M.
Hmm.
Oh wow, interesting. Cool. Now, we have had a couple of questions. Um, the latest one just came in and made me laugh, but uh, but we were gonna go from the oldest one to the newest one. There are quite a lot of questions for Twisters. Let's go through them. We're gonna start with Kenneth66. He's got a couple of questions. Do you think teams should have more boot camps or get a team house to improve how the team communicates and bonds with each other, and just to help the team improve overall?
For sure, I think a team house can help a lot to structure and to help a team to have a sense of group. Most part of the things that you see in sports or in any other category, they spend a lot of time together, and I think to build this relationship between the players and maybe the coach, maybe the analyst, maybe all this environment can help, just like PDS did through all these years, and a lot of Brazilian teams do, just like NIP or FaZe. They start to bring in a bond, and they build a bond that is called just like something similar to a family. And this helps on harder times. This helps you go through the bad situations during the tournaments, and this helps to being confident in your teammate even if he is not performing. And I think that Team House helps everything, helps this everything, and is able to help the team to grow up as a group. But I think that there is a time you can't be in the team house forever, because the same way that everything's more intense there and you build this thing, it all can be destroyed as well, as the same intense way of working is in that way. So I think maybe building a team house and building up the team together to live there for like 1 year, I think it's the totally okay. And again, and then go for a office model, just like go and see the players every day to work with, but everyone living in their own houses and having their own life to maybe know how to split things up.
Very interesting. Cool. Um, let's see. Got a couple of more questions. Oh yeah, we got Thunder Zera basically asking to talk about a little bit about Gamers 8. And what these kind of tournaments bring to the game. Now, I think David, we've
Hmm.
talked about Gamers 8, I think, and Gamers Without Borders a little bit. While it's cool that like there is another tournament that exists with like a lot of big prize money, we all know exactly what the
Yeah.
reason for that tournament is. Like it's esports washing or like sports washing
Hmm.
because they want to make
Yeah.
the country look good, and no offense to like all like the Saudi people who obviously do not support these things. Like I'm sure a lot of them don't support these things, but there are a lot of human rights transgressions happening in that country and like in that region. Really, like for example, Qatar with the World Cup as well. Although they run a fantastic airline, but like it's really not. It's not the best place to be if you're like a foreign worker. Um, what do we think? Like what I think, I guess. About Gamers 8, I think Gamers 8, if it was just like a tournament, I think just as a tournament, very cool that you get like another chance for international teams. Look, you got SSG, Wild, MIBR, Damwon coming in, like big hitters, right? Damwon going to be at Berlin as well. I think that's really cool that they provided an opportunity for fans to watch and like I guess fans in Riyadh to go and watch these teams in person, whereas they wouldn't be able to, like for example, able to be traveling to Berlin, Charlotte, wherever, to actually watch the games. But on the other hand, the true purpose of these events, in my opinion, is quite sinister. Um, so I don't know. It's hard to say because we've written articles on those, and based on those articles, we get like ad revenue at some point, and we get like stuff, partnership revenue. So we are technically profiting off these things. So like I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to really hold like a moral judgment on these things. Like Twister, I'm sure if like you guys were invited, you had a $2 million prize pool. You would
we
not be
need
able
it
to
to
say
go.
no. Yeah, look, it's $2 million that you could like you could win like $1 million. That's bigger than SI. Like, why the hell would you like not try and take that money, right? Eh,
Yeah, because it's a
It's
lower
hard to
number
say.
of teams playing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just 8 teams.
Yeah, but I don't know
So
how you guys feel about it. But like, that's my personal um thoughts on Gamers 8 and Gamers Without Borders.
yeah, I say that on a business way of thinking, it's better for everyone to just to
Yeah.
go, just like the teams, the organizations, and all the other things. And talking about the experience of having another international events, I always was a fan of seeing minors, dream hacks, and all these tournaments. So I think this Gamers 8 is an opportunity to have all these tournaments back and to show that maybe these teams, most part of the teams, just like Dalmon, is in the major in Berlin right now, but most part of the teams didn't qualify. But maybe you can see an upset in this tournament and maybe seeing MIBR, Liquid, TSM, BDS finally winning international tournament in the case of Liquid and MIBR and BDS. And
Yeah.
seeing these teams that didn't have a pretty good stage performing outside Brazil and seeing a clash of regions. That is the thing that I think it's most fun to watch in any of the esports, and maybe having more tournaments just like that to see more and more clashes of these teams and have these international events that were pretty great.
Yeah, it's like I think for us, as you just look at the esports, I think it's so cool that we're having this
Hmm.
opportunity to have these more teams. But yeah, I think David, you agree. Not much more to
Yeah,
say.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I am always open to more tournaments because I think that's what the esports need. As Twister, I was a really good fan of, Dream Hacks and all those kind of tournaments, and it's sad
Minors. Yeah.
that yeah, minors, yeah. Um, it's a bit sad that we don't have them anymore in the scene, but yeah, the circuit it is what it is here now. So, but yeah, as morals wise, it's not the best probably. Um, but yeah, having a 2 million tournament, obviously it's insane. Like,
Yeah.
and if I was a player, I don't know what I would do. I would probably go for sure. Like for MIBR, depend like MIBR because Brazil we know about the money. It's like a dollar is like five
uh,
times
five,
real.
five, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a big
exactly.
it's a big
So
opportunity
it's
for
just
Brazilians.
insane. It's such a big opportunity for Team Liquid and MIBR that
Yeah.
it's a life
Honestly.
changer. It's a life
Yeah.
changer.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like
Like
you
they are
can't
going
blame the
there for
teams. I think.
3 days, 3 days,
Yeah.
and they have the chance to fight
What
for
is? Let me go and pull
no
up
the
like what
price pool. The
exactly.
price pool.
Yeah, 2 million.
I
But
don't
what
know
is like
honestly.
The total
I
prize
don't know
pool
the
is 2 million.
distribution. I don't know the distribution,
They
but
haven't
I
revealed
checked.
it. Yeah, they haven't
I
revealed it.
checked. I checked Rocket League's
Mhm.
Wikipedia, and it shows, but it shows up like because the tournament has already been played. But the thing is
Right.
that there were 24 24
Ah.
teams.
Hey, Furia won that one.
Um, yeah, Furia won exactly. Furia won, but 24 teams, and the winner won 500K, which is insane. So imagine with just 8 teams.
Yeah,
I guess
that
it's
is
going to
like
be
just
around
attending. Just
yeah,
attending is
800K
like,
or 1 million maybe.
well, so apparently Twister says it's what 2.16 million reals for the championship team
Yeah.
for the Rocket League or for like in Rainbow Six.
No, for the Rainbow Six champion team, it's like 400,000 dollars, and this converting to reais, it's like this amount. It's plenty of money for the champion team.
Jeez, yeah. Well, yeah,
That's
that's
a
that's
lot.
that's insane. So like, yeah, I'm not gonna
That's a
blame
lot.
the. I'm not. I'm really not gonna blame the players for taking this bag, I guess. But because they are new, it's not like they are like multi-billionaires like footballers who have a lot more of like a
Yeah.
say in
And
their situation.
and it's really going to be interesting to see. First of all, Damwon, who play in Berlin
Yes,
one
yeah.
week later. So we will see how they head to the tournament. I guess they are going to just play and that's it.
They
And
said
then you
I
have
talked to them today. They said they were like they said they want to try, they want to push for this tournament, but they also recognize that there's a risk of them showing too much strategy
exactly,
and showing
exactly.
and just being burnt out.
Hmm.
But look, I while it's obviously admirable to try and make a deep major run, how many majors must you like win to get the same money as you'll
Yeah,
get
Yeah.
from
yeah,
like placing like even top 4 in this? So like I would totally get it if
yeah.
these
And
guys just push for
yeah,
the Gamers 8 rather than Berlin.
yeah, I'm not sure if you are used to, but we all know how Koreans work.
Yeah.
They are, they work lots of hours. They are used to burnout. I think it's just part of the society, if I'm not wrong. Um, yeah, and it's also going to be a really good chance to see Falcons support the Saudi Arabian team against international rosters. It's just, yeah, as we said, really nice to see these kind of tournaments, but it's Saudi Arabia, and you already mentioned it, Shikar. It's a bit, weird, but well.
Well, yeah, okay, let's move on from that. Another question from Canif66, and I think this is when we were talking about IG. Do you think having everyone in the team being able to shot call is a good thing, or do you think it's better to have a dedicated IGL so you aren't flooding the comms or talking over each other and everyone being on different pages?
In my opinion, can I talk first?
Yeah, absolutely. These are questions for you.
I think that once you have a dedicated IGL, you have someone to take this responsibility. And once you have it, it's not just his responsibility to talk every time, because no one knows everything every time. And yeah, I mean, no one has all this knowledge. But once you have someone that is responsible for that kind of communication, you still have this person responsible for activating other person in the team to talk as much as he need to. So if you just spread this responsibility throughout the team, maybe it happens sometimes that some players says, "Oh, I will not talk because my other player, my support will talk," and the support thinks, "Oh, I'm not talking because my flex will
Right.
talk," and then you have a miss of communication that can generate a bad situation for the team during the match. So I always like someone responsible for that thing.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I would assume it also does depend a little bit on like the team structure and like what kind of players you have in the roster. Because yeah, I imagine some teams would definitely like it structured, some teams wouldn't. But so on and so forth. Another question from this guy, from Can of 66, which is like I guess funnily enough similar to like the last question that was asked. Um, one guy asked it why is fantasy a fraud? The other guy's kind of saying a little bit more diplomatically. He's saying, why is fantasy rated so high in Brazil, but everyone else around the world thinks he's an average player? I think that's a fair question. Although someone else might try to be funny and say call him a fraud.
I mean, it's way fairer than the first one.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that fantasy, even participating of all international events, Furia didn't go through all the group stages, through all the playoffs, so he didn't have the chances to show himself on several matches. And most part of the people outside Brazil don't get used to watch the Brazilian league and watch fantasy performing and how is their game style and how is his way of playing. But everyone here in Brazil, it's very similar and it's very used to see how fantasy play. And you saw just he making a double ace like
Mhm.
with the P10 of Aruni, and you see a lot of other play style from him that fits. And I think that he is a young talent, and he is one player that is tagged to be one of the best in the world because he has a lot of to evolve yet, and he still is very good right now.
Mhm.
So if you think that Muzi is good, if you think that Spoit is good, and if you think that Bolo is good, you by rule have to think that
Yeah,
Fancy is good as
fantasy is
well,
good. Yeah,
because
exactly.
is pretty much the same of these other guys.
Yeah.
And if
I
you
think
watch
I'll
it, you will see. If you watch
Yeah,
it, you will
look,
see.
I think maybe he doesn't quite help his team as much internationally. Fine, but like he is definitely doing it in Brazil. He's getting his team to those international events in the first place, and he is doing really well in Brazil, which is arguably
Yeah,
one of the most competitive leagues. So
I
I think that's
I mean,
inarguable.
if you have a player that perform in the national leagues or the tier two but can't perform in the tier one, this doesn't take out what this player does. It just don't
Hmm.
agree more, don't add more in their curriculum. I mean, you would probably not pick a player that can perform in international events if you want to just to focus in performing in international events. But this doesn't make the player bad. It just
Hmm.
doesn't make the player fit on what you want. And right now, I think Fancy is not just this player that can perform in international events the way that he can in the Brazilian and Elite Six leagues, but it's something that because he's so young that it can be worked on. It can be worked, and I believe he will be that guy. He will be that guy that will perform and will bring Furia alongside Miracle and Rare to the championships. So I believe it's a matter of time for everyone see what Brazil see on fancy.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, and I think final question from Kenneth as well. Oh no, there's one more after that. From Kenneth, another question: do you think Ubisoft should go ahead with the plan for the R6 World Cup? Um, I don't know.
I don't
R6
think
World Cup is a
so.
weird. Yeah, I don't think it fits in Rainbow Six.
Yeah, they,
Not
they
really.
try, they throw the idea, but I don't think they will
Yeah.
keep it.
I
Well,
don't think so.
we'll see. Okay. And the final question that we're gonna take before we move on to our stats game, where Twister is gonna take part. Who does Twister think is the best player in EU?
Right now?
Yeah, right now. I mean,
Yeah, right.
not Spoit, for like overall,
Yeah,
I guess.
overall, for sure. So I would say that the best debut that you had, it was Spoit for sure. What he's
Hmm.
making is unbelievable. But the best player that that is in EU right now, I would think that is
Hmm.
Alemão. It is robbed
Yeah,
saying Alemão. Is it
Hmm.
is it cheating? Or do I have to say about EU player?
I mean,
it's cool.
he
It's
is an
cool.
EU player, so
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I
So I
think
think it's
yeah.
Alemão.
uh,
If not
this
Alemão,
Yeah, it's cool.
Sitzen. If not
yeah,
Alemão, Sitzen.
yeah. I think individually there's a reason why G2's been considered super team and why people are really critical of them because their players are so good and we don't perform well together, then it really is very frustrating. And I think just seen that comment about Alameda.
It's sad.
Yeah. Right. Cool. With that, I think it is time for us to move into the stats game. Now, Twister, as I was telling you before, just before we got the show started, David is really good at this game, right? He's
David?
scarily good. Okay.
Oh,
And
way.
David, I'm going to allow you because Twister's going to be the one predicting. He's not going to pick any of the stats. I'm going to allow you to also pick the stats from the Copa Elite Six so far.
Okay.
So you can pick from either
So
Copa
no
Elite Six
Brazil.
or from no. You can pick from BR6 as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
your choice. You don't have to tell you. I mean, you have to tell him the tournament, but like, yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna, and you're also gonna give him EU teams. I'm gonna give Twister and you. We're all gonna guess. I'm gonna give NA and APAC. So I think Twister's gonna have a real hard time with the APAC ones. But
Nah,
let's go.
It'll be fine. It will be fine.
Yeah, let's go. David.
Yes. Let's go. So I'm choosing from the Brasileirão. So rating of 1.10, KD of 83 and 70, so plus 13. Entry of 10 and 8, so plus 2. KOST pretty normal, 68%. Has clutched one round, planted twice, and he mains Sophia and Jaeger.
Sophia and Jaeger. This is pretty interesting. I would say that's Astro.
Astro? Not
No,
really.
he's not.
No, I don't
Not
think.
really.
No way,
I'm
no
not
way.
thinking
Not
Astro.
really.
Do I
You
have
have
another
another
shot?
try. You have another shot. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it like someone from NIP? NIP, isn't
So
it? Surely it must be NIP.
so if it's not Astro, probably I would say it's
Tito?
Wizard.
Oh,
Yeah, it is
it's
Wizard.
Wizard. Hey, well, okay.
Yeah. Let's
It's
go.
the main two Sophias that I know that are pretty good this last season. So I give it a
Yeah.
shot to Astro first, but yeah, Wizard it's main Jäger as well. I should
Uh-huh.
probably think about that.
I checked Astro, and according to our database for stage 2, Astro has mained Ash. He also plays Sophia, but he has mained Ash and
Ash.
Melusi.
That-
Yeah,
It was an
he plays
impression.
Ash a lot. Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's like, yeah, he liked to play Ash, but I didn't knew that it was so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah. Cool. Okay. I guess it's my turn. Right. Who do I go for? All right. I'm not gonna make it. I guess that hard. Well, it's hard not to make it that hard. All right. Let me
It would
think.
be from BR6?
No, I'm picking from APAC. So
Okay.
I'm gonna be picking, yeah, and like David and you have to guess which player I'm talking about. Right, here we go. I think David is gonna pick this, so I want you, I want Twister to kind of predict this before. He's got a rating of 1.20. He's got a KD of 78.55, so that's plus 23. He's got an entry of 20 and 8, and I think this might tip it for
This one
David.
is easy. This
Yeah,
one is
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
You
Wait,
you
don't
said it.
say it
Okay.
yet. Don't say it.
Okay.
Don't say
Okay.
until.
Okay.
And then he
okay.
means Finka and Azami.
Oh my god. Finka and Azami?
Yeah.
I would
KD plus
say
23,
it will
entry
be
plus 12.
a shot. It will be a blind shot
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know much of stats of APAC,
Yeah.
but I would shot that would be in APAC North, and that would be Arukazi.
Not quite. We talked
No.
about this player just now, but it was not Arukaze. We talked about him just
Oh,
now.
just now?
We highly, yeah, we did, and we talked about one of his
Yeah, during the post.
very
Yeah.
impressive stats, and I mentioned one of those stats here just now.
No way. I have a pretty bad memory.
Short
I had
memory.
a I had a pretty bad memory, but it's a APAC North, right?
It is
Or
APAC
APAC.
North, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so
The hint, I'll give you a hint. He's not at the major.
he's not at the major. So probably it's someone from. It's Black Ray? No, Black Ray is not the Zofia, the Finca.
No, okay,
Oh man,
you're
this is
actually
so
close. Black Ray
difficult.
is the Finca, but the answer, David, you want to reveal
You can say David.
Uh, yes. Because you asked the same last week, I think.
it? Did I? Shit.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, damn.
It
This
is
is
it is Yuda from Fnatic.
Yura.
Yeah,
So
we talked about his
that.
entry just now.
Yeah.
Oh, I
20 and
couldn't
8.
imagine that he was so good in the
Yeah.
stats. I mean, I knew he did it on the 7-0, and I knew we mentioned
Yeah.
it, but I couldn't imagine that he was so good in the
So
tournament
good,
stats.
yeah. Absolutely impressive. Alright, David,
Impressive.
it's up to you for an EU player.
EU player. Okay, let me get that
Mm.
page because I just have the Brazilian route.
We'll go back to Brazil.
Uh,
We'll do one more
yeah,
round
cool.
where, yeah.
EU. I'm going because I want to ask last because that one is quite tricky, honestly. Um. Okay, I'm going for this one. Rating of 1.25, KD of 91 and 62, so plus 29. Entry of 11 and 6, plus 5. KOST of 69. Has clutched 2 rounds. Has planted twice. Mains Twitch and mute.
What the
Oh,
hell?
Alemão.
Uh,
Twitch and
nope.
mute. It is
Yeah,
Alemão.
I knew you were going to say Alemão.
David,
Ah,
No,
David is
it
really
is
good at
not.
this game. I told you,
Arn,
David's really good.
no way, no way. So if it's not Alemão, probably I would say planted twice and has a 29 plus on
What's his rating
KD.
again?
Yeah.
What's his...
Rating of 1.25. He's among the best 5 players according to stats.
And he's a
This
Twitch
page.
main.
Twitch
So
main.
probably it's probably someone from Wolves, I guess.
Is it Shinka?
No,
By that case, no, you can try. You can try.
Okay, I'm going to give you a hint.
Yeah.
They are in the race for Berlin but haven't secured a spot yet.
So Usus.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
It's second try.
Damn.
Second
Usus.
try. I'm the man
Yes.
of the second tries.
It is Usus. Very good.
Whoa, oh,
Very good.
damn. I didn't... When did he switch main Twitch? He was not Twitch like a couple of weeks ago. We talked about users. You gave me users, and he was not playing
Things
Twitch a couple.
change. Things change.
Jeez, like okay, that is
Tricky one.
very surprising. Okay,
That's a cheeky one.
Can I do that
Right.
too? I think it's fun.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
wanna
yeah.
pick a player and give us, though I will say that David predicts pretty much everything. David's really good at predicting them.
I'll try to pick up from one from Brazil because I
Give him a
think
hard
it's
one. Yes, give him a hard one.
yeah. I will try to get a hard one. So the Brazilian 20, the Brazilian route, second stage. I would
Hmm?
say that it's a player with a rating of 0.99 or 99. It's
Uh-huh.
7.9 and 7.6 KD, so plus 3. It's a 22 and 17 entries, so plus 5.
Takes a lot of
Uh, a,
entries.
a cost of 60.
Oh.
Uh, a clutch on the season it was 1, plants 1, and the mains are Finca and Jäger.
Oh my god.
It's a hard one. 0.99 of rating and +3 on KD, 79 and 76.
So he's really just like a middle of the pack, very middle of the pack operator, a player.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
main
these
Finka
days
and
Must be
we
a
had
Jäger.
like
BD guy. He must be a BD guy.
could be
A BD
BD,
guy.
could be Team One or Liquid. I'm sure that it's BD One or Liquid.
Liquid doesn't play Finka. Doesn't have anyone playing Finka and what's the other operator? Sorry, Jaeger.
Finka and Jäger.
I don't think Liquid has a Finka and Jaeger main.
We'll see if David is pretty good in this game. This is a tough one. Even me, I
I
wouldn't.
mean, it could be Perez, but mm,
For
uh,
some reason I think
just,
he's either he's a BD guy. I just feel like
if it's Finca and if it's BD, if you think it's
it'll be
BD, it has
Perez.
to be
Yeah,
Perez.
yeah,
But I am not really sure about the Jaeger one.
yeah. I don't watch enough to know what he means. I think I'm gonna go with Perez. Yeah,
you go with Perez.
yeah.
So David will have another try because it's
Hey,
incorrect. Incorrect.
damn.
Mm,
I'm gonna go see who it is so that
is it?
I get it on the party real quick. Oh,
Yeah, you never
oh.
guessed this one. You
No,
never would guess it.
no. The funny thing is, I gave David this player a couple of weeks back, very early in the stage,
So
and he also
you're
didn't guess it.
you're
He also
getting
didn't guess
easy
it.
on him.
Stop. Now if I
You're not
get
gonna
it
guess it.
right, he's going to be like, oh, yeah. Um,
You're not getting this, David. There's no way. It's not happening.
could it
It's
be? Uh,
it's not linked on your mind.
Because I said it was. Could it be?
Quick! 5, 4, 3, 2,
I
1.
don't
Give me a
know.
name.
Um, let's say
Name.
Cyber, for example. I don't know.
He's in the
No.
major, dude. He's really good.
I don't know. I'm thinking of Finca mates that.
Wait, it's
And that's
it's. Tristan, you want to do the honors?
yeah, it's a liquid player that is considered one of the best in the world.
No way.
It's
It's Nest.
It's
it's
Nest.
No
It's
Nest.
freaking
fucking
Nest.
way.
I did. What the
It's
heck,
an easy
man?
one because it's a known name, but it's not
Yes, but
so
like
easy because you can't link Nest as a
Nest at
medium
this
player.
level, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that is crazy. Yeah, that was 100% not would have expected.
I went for
Okay,
Yeah.
Cyber because yesterday I was working on the interview
oh, he did get a
and
.99 rating. Cyber did.
yeah, and I saw the stats and I remembered that he was like quite low, so I
Oh,
went for Cyber. But
Yeah, he's pretty low. He's pretty low, and but didn't have any entries, and Ask still
yeah,
had the entries.
yeah, that's true. That's
it's
true. That's
wild.
completely true.
It's wild. Okay, the final one from me.
Hmm.
It's going to be an NA player, so North American
Oh.
League. Yeah, then this is your same time zone, so I expect you guys to do a little bit better. Similar-ish time zone. Right, this man, 1.05 rating, 83 and 73 in KD, 19 and 14, that is +5 in entry. He didn't really have a good KOST, only 58%. And he's got 2 clutches, 1 diffuser plant. He is a Finka and a Zami main. For some reason, I always settle on these Finka and Azami mains.
You like the Finka and Azami mains.
Yeah. 1.05 rating, +10 KD, +2 entry, 58% cost. Sorry, +10 KD and +5 entry, 58% cost.
But I think that I just can shot from NA stats because I just know the things that qualify it, but I don't really know the things that are there in the stats. But I would shot for maybe Newers.
Newest has been the best player in NAL, man.
Yeah.
No, it's not
Yeah,
Nunes, but
no,
he is
not
a thinker
this.
in Azami main. You got that right. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I think it's clear that Twister looks at like how the player plays rather than the
Yeah.
slasher, because he's getting the mains right, but he's not getting the first try.
Yeah.
The stats.
Yeah.
You can go, David.
Because there are so many Finka mains in NA.
Yeah, but not many Finka and Azami mains. Newers was one of them. This guy is the only other.
No way, I get this one. No way.
He is the only other Finka and Azami main in NA.
In 1.5, it's not that high, but it is a high hating. So
I'm going to no. Hmm. I'm going to
Alright, I'm
say
gonna give you 10 seconds.
Blast
10.
maybe.
Okay, Blaz? And no, Blaz is wrong. I'm gonna give you guys one
so
last opportunity.
the last opportunity that I would shot for it was yoga.
Wrong! That's not Yoga either. And
Oh,
David,
no way.
here's one real hint. He is going to the major.
He's going to the mayor.
Yes.
So that's
Because
just one left.
my next was Sweater, and yeah, he's not going to the mayor.
Alright, it's not gonna come, but Trista, who are you thinking?
Probably the other Finca main that's going to the major and probably will make it. It will be
Is it
Hyper? No,
maybe?
Hyper no.
Is it?
Pambazu?
No!
Oh wait.
No,
It's wrong! You guys are all
that's
wrong!
What?
It
it.
is!
Wait,
It's
wait,
Chat
wait.
got it right!
The K. What was the key? The KOST?
The KOST of 58.
The KOST?
58.
No, yeah,
I'm
I
gonna tell
cannot
you who it
shot anymore
is.
because I
I'm gonna
saw
tell
it,
it.
but
Say it,
Yeah!
say it, say it.
no.
It is
Uh,
iconic! The man who was so hot in Charlotte. Not had a good stage, but they're still going to the major. I think it's been a lot close of a
You
team
guys go for the
performance.
tricky ones.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's the funny thing.
he's the only other Finka and Azami main, other than
The
Nunes.
Newers.
Yeah.
No, I think about talking about him, but I didn't imagine that he would be so low.
So
In
low, right? Yeah, same. When he said Nesk, I was like, okay, I know who I'm gonna ask for NAL. He was like that
I
same.
could imagine that. I could imagine that.
Yeah.
No way.
Cool. Yeah, we have clocked over 2 hours. The stream has been live, and I think this is a good opportunity to call time on this. I think we have one last question actually. Very quickly, let's ask Kenneth's last question. What is your opinion on BR6, where you can hear the team comms during the rounds? Do you think it's a good and a bad thing? And do you think other regions should do it?
Well, I think to start answering this question, I want to start saying that Brazil this season was one of the closest one. So we saw many teams getting into the top of the tournament and many teams and being able to qualify that were not even close to that. And many other teams just competing for that spot as well. So I would say that the level of Brazilian Siege is quite good. And once Liquid is not making to this tournament, I think that Liquid kind of have a little bit of choke in majors and invitationals. So this affect a little bit the situations on their matches. So right now that you have FaZe Clan and NIP that already won majors and invitationals before, and you have W7M and Furia with nothing to lose and a lot to bring on the tournament, I think that Brazil has more chances than ever to win another tournament and maybe doing a Brazilian final according to the brackets for sure. But I
Right.
think that we'll see good showings from
I
Wolves,
think,
from
sorry,
Rogue.
Chester. I think while you're absolutely cool, I think you misunderstood the question. It's about you, well, how in the broadcast they show what the teams are talking and teams are speaking, what the team comms are. He's basically asking if you think that's a good thing that they allow us to listen in on like the team comms every now and then.
From what I'm hearing from the communications of the
Yeah,
teams.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you
I
think it's a
imagine
good
that
thing to
was
showcase that And like, do you think other regions should have it? I think it's very cool, and I would love for other regions to have it.
Yeah, I like that much. It's pretty good to understand how the teams are in the communications. I really think it's pretty good to know how the team, how is the team feeling during the match, how they are feeling the situations on the rounds, and who takes the responsibilities, and how they perform under some certain situations. So communication is the soul of the teams. So it needs to be good, and it need to be it's pretty fun to hear that communications.
Very cool. Yeah, and I think that is a very good place to stop today's episode of SiegeGG Live. I think it has been absolutely fantastic, Twister. It's been so cool having you here and really gaining your insight on so many topics, like all over the place, from APAC all the way to, of course, your home region of BR. Really hope you find a team soon, and really excited. Hopefully, we can see you bringing another team to majors consistently, just like you did with Furia. Yeah, that's been it. I've been Shikar, with me, one and only David, and the very special Twister, who is still looking for a team while he is doing the mentorship thing with Alpha Team. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a good
Thank
day.
you.